I'm Jenny, and I'll be playing the Fast Etude for Maryland's Junior All-State auditions. It's from the Advanced Rubank book for Clarinet, and it's on page 34, number 13, just the top line. So I'll play it through here, and afterwards I'll give some tips on how to practice. It's about 30 seconds long if we get it to the tempo that they have marked, which is quarter note equals 94. But when we practice, we want to start much, much slower. So in the tips I'm about to give you, I'll be playing it at a much slower tempo too. So the most tricky part about this etude is the articulations. And the biggest articulations we have are slurs and staccatos. Slurs are any group of notes, 2 notes or more, that are connected by a big line. And we only tongue the first note of a slur, and it will sound something like this. Now, staccatos are the notes with the little dots above them. And what I tell all my students to think of when they need to play staccato is to say the word tut. Staccato means separated, and you can think that they're short and crisp. So if we have a T-U-T sound, our tongue will start on the reed, it will come off, and it will come back on, and will give us that really crisp sound. So the hardest part comes when we have slurs followed by staccatos, because we have to do something called a tongue cutoff. On the clarinet, there's 2 ways of stopping the note. One is just stopping the air, and the other way is a tongue cutoff, where we put our tongue back on the reed and physically stop the reed from vibrating. It sounds like this. So that gives a much more clear and concise end to the note. And it's very helpful when we're going from slurs, which are nice and smooth, to staccato, where we need a bit of space in between them to show how short they are. So, for example, look at the first 2 beats of the piece. We have 4 16th notes slurred, followed by 2 staccato 8th notes. That means on our 4th 16th note, the D, we need to have a tongue cut off so that we have space to play the next 2 staccatos. So it will sound something like this, which sounds a little ridiculous right now because it's so slow. But when you get the speed up a little bit, it won't sound as harsh, it won't sound as crazy. So again. And what I'm doing is on that last D, instead of taking the air away to stop the note, I'm putting my tongue back on the reed to physically stop the reed from vibrating, because that's how the clarinet makes sound. If the reed isn't vibrating, there's going to be no sound. So what I would do is I would look through the entire etude and practice every little chunk where we have slurs followed by staccato notes. And then when it's faster, it doesn't sound crazy. It sounds exactly like it's supposed to. So the other tricky articulation we have in here is about halfway through the piece. If you all can find the fermata, which is in the 3rd line of music, afterwards we have these pairs of slurs. 2 notes paired together that need to be connected. Now, if you look at the top of the piece, it says spiritoso. So we need to play this piece cheerfully, with a lot of spirit, and think of like a happy emotion while you're playing. So when I get down to these pairs of slurred notes, I think of a more bouncy characteristic. So the first set of slurs are from B to D. And to get that bounce, you want to put a little more emphasis on the first note, on the B. You can tongue them just regularly. And you're doing everything that's on the page, but the piece sounds a little flat and it doesn't sound as cheerful. If we put the emphasis on the first note of the pair, it gives it that bouncy feeling. So that would be the second articulation to pay specific attention to. Now, if we go back to where our fermata is, we see a word printed right before it. This is the third line of music, and that word is allargando. And what that means is to get slower and slower. So what we need to remember to do is to get slower and slower and not immediately put on the brakes when we see that word. So we see it's only printed under the second set of sixteenths in that measure. So we also don't want to start it too soon. So I'm going to start on the third line of music so you can hear how I do the allargando. So we slow those second set of sixteenths coming into a fermata. And our fermata means that we have to hold the note longer than what's written. And it's written as a dotted quarter note, so we have to play it longer than a beat and a half. And that's up to you how long you want to play it. Afterwards, we see it says a tempo, and what that means is we start the tempo that we had before our slowdown, before our fermata. We pick that tempo up again and start anew. So I'm going to play the whole third line of music for you with all those tempo changes. Back to our old tempo. And so on and so forth. So the last thing that I find the trickiest about this etude happens again in that third line. The third line of music has some of the trickiest things. And that's going from throat tone A to F sharp. Even though it's physically not that far on clarinet, it's a far way to get our first finger to move. What will happen a lot is instead of going straight from A to F sharp, we'll get the G in between, and it will sound something like this. Instead of. So what I would suggest to do is just practice going between throat tone A and F sharp, and only have your pointer finger be on maybe the bottom quarter or the bottom third of our A key, the teardrop key, so that it can be as close as possible to the first hole so that we don't get that in-between note, we don't get the G. And then just practice that independently from the rest of the piece. And practice it as slow as you need until you get a really clean combination of notes where we only have the A and we only have the F sharp. So those would be my biggest practice points for this piece. I hope this was helpful, and good luck on all of your practicing. Bye!